Hi everyone, this is Stephen here from Share Navigator. It's November the 26th, and this is your options and futures trade update, and we'll be talking about Bitcoin again also. Just a reminder, tomorrow's Thanksgiving in the US, so US markets will be closed and they're on a half day on Friday. So very little happening in the next 2 days from today onwards. And that's going to benefit us too in some of our short option trades, and I'm going to explain why when we get to them. So let's get started. So we're looking at a chart of the VIX here at the minute, and the reason I'm doing that is I can remember doing a webinar a couple of days back saying when the VIX usually spikes, it's time to buy the S&P 500. So look what happened. The VIX spiked 4 days ago, and look where it's gone to. It's gone from 28 down to 18. So just a reminder for people who are new watching this, the VIX is a volatility index of the options in the US markets, and there's the old saying is that when the VIX is high, it's time to buy stocks, and when the VIX is low, it's time to go. It's not an exact rule, but it's just a rule of thumb. So what we were kind of suggesting was it's time to start getting at least selling option premium and generating income on the put side, and also potentially buying the S&P 500. And look what's happened to SPY since. So SPY is the ETF that tracks the S&P 500. Look in the last 4 days what's happened. After that big down day, we've had nothing but rally since. So there's a big correlation there. So yesterday was a good day, up 1%. Great for our option positions. We're going to go into that now in a moment. But I just want to talk about Bitcoin in the same breath, I suppose. So we look at the chart of Bitcoin. Again, we can see in the last 4 days, Bitcoin has stabilized. So this is the correlation I'm talking about between Bitcoin now and the S&P 500. There is a correlation there. And the reason for this, I've done a whole video on that. Again, it's just due to the institutional ownership now in Bitcoin, and when institutions start rebalancing portfolios, etc., all risk assets get sold off indiscriminately. So that's what you got to be aware of. So if we have big sell-offs in Bitcoin, I think it translates into the S&P 500 and vice versa. So we just got to be aware of that. So I'm going to talk about Bitcoin separately in a second. On to the S&P 500 and our current positions. And I just want to show you, again, the beauty of our short put strategy. High probability trade. We sold a $620 put option. Back to our chart here. That basically, we sold an insurance policy, basically insured somebody else's shares to the value of $620. That means that if SPY rises, goes sideways and falls, but so long as it doesn't fall below our break-even price, which was actually down here at 615, we make a profit. And even when all of this was happening here, we only went into a slight temporary loss in that trade, and now we're in a significant profit. You can see per contract, we're up $332. And you can see here, we've got $167 of potential profit to make in that trade. Now, if that profit gets up to over 400, we'll close this trade down and walk away. But there's no harm leaving it on either. It's very, very unlikely. In fact, the probability in this trade is now 99%. You can see that here, 99% chance of making a profit in that trade. So if you didn't feel like closing that down, well, then don't. You could leave it there. So that's kind of our first one. The other thing I'm talking about here, and again, I want to mention it in the same breath as the next 2 days. So if you think about it, no trading tomorrow. So that's going to be another day of option decay, half day on Friday, which is pretty much light volume on Friday. Then you got Saturday and Sunday. So you're going to have 4 days now of basically theta decay in the value of an option. So you can see here the theta value on this short put at the minute is $13.20 a contract. So that means, is all things being equal, for the next 4 days, another $52 of value is going to erode out of the value of that option. And that's great for us because we've sold it. We sold the insurance policy. So that will translate onto the P&L side. Now, of course, if SPY opens up, for example, on Friday or Monday, down, well, then, there's other Greeks that are going to come into play. But just on the theta front, another $50 or so of value is going to erode out of the value of that and go on to our profit and loss side. And looking at our ratio put spread as well, I don't know if you remember last week when the volatility got very high. This was in, again, a temporary loss situation. Look at it now. It's up $333 a contract. This one was a slightly different trade. We were long on the 660 put. We sold twice as many of the 650s, break even at 635. And this was a slightly more aggressive trade. And I was going to get even more aggressive with it and actually close out that 660 put when I seen the VIX spike. Didn't pull the trigger on it because I felt that we might get a squeeze a bit more out of it. I wanted to give it a bit more time. It didn't happen. So we're just going to let that trade run. And again, as long as SPY stays above 635 by December the 19th, we make some sort of a profit on that. And possibly, more than likely, we're going to make about $580 profit on that trade per contract. So again, I'm trying to stress here the beauty of high probability trading, guys. I can't emphasize it enough. You're going to win out of 9 out of every 10 trades you place. Yes, you will be managing 1 out of 10. That's going to happen there, the stats on it. But you're going to win more often than you're going to lose on this. And then once you know how to manage option trades that are starting to get under pressure, it really is a much safer way to invest, especially when you use SPY as your statistical edge. Let's start talking about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is stabilized a little bit here. Personally, myself, I still think we're going to get a little test down here. So again, just as a reminder, little recoveries on the way down. Since there was a recovery, and maybe this is just the next recovery. My view is I think we're going to test down here. And I think then at that level, it could be interesting. And there's a number of ways you can trade it. If you wanted to keep it simple, you've got IBIT, which is literally a Bitcoin tracker. So you could look at buying calls on that, for example, or buy the stock itself. Even now, you could start looking at selling put options on that, maybe 10 or 15% out of the money. The premiums are juicy. This one is a bit of leverage in it. This one moves quite a lot. Look, that was down 7% yesterday. The day before that was up 16%. So these candles don't look like a big move, but they're huge. Look where it was only back in October. It's at $60. We're now down at 30. So if you wanted to play a leveraged play and try and benefit in a rebound in Ethereum and Bitcoin, this is probably something you want to be looking at. It's highly leveraged. Get ready for wild moves on it. So again, I'm not ready to go there just yet myself personally. I think I'd like to see this at $77 first. And I do think we're going to get that rebound. And then I think we could make a lot of money on that. So it's just a trade I'm lining up now. I wanted to start bringing your attention to it. And I would recommend you start doing your own homework on the likes of IBIT and BMNR there, just for your own safety and your own sake. Okay, if you have any questions, as per usual, please send me a WhatsApp directly or chat to us via the website and the web chat function there. More than happy to help at any stage. Thanks and bye for now.